Now that I have your attention, now that I really have your attention, this is about the amount of explosions you can do with Genestealer Cult Acolytes. And also a bit of, just for good measure, this is not a mortal wound bomb. Games Workshop stops them. When our hated enemy, the Deathwatch, had that in theory, it was doing like 40 to 100 mortal wounds. That was wiped out before 10th edition is officially launched. This is regular, high strength 12, -2 rend, damage 2, explosions. I see two ways of running the Acolyte Hybrids in 10th edition, and I encourage you to have at least one squad of each. Before explosions, first I want to talk about stabbing people with tiny knives. A gaggle gank, if you will. It's not about stabbing someone, but the idea of coming together as a group to stab someone in praise of the Star Gods. Acolytes come in squads of between 5 and 10, or from the points 5 or 10. It's not 15 as in 9th edition, and not 20 as in 8th edition. It is just what you get in the box. There's 10 models, so that's it. You could also get 12 Acolytes in a box set. Octadeath? No, Pentaslay? Overkill. That's right. It was called Overkill. And the Genestealer Cult Combat Patrol box also comes with a squad of 5. We haven't seen the Combat Patrol box rules yet, so we don't know if you'd be forced to build them as Metamorphs or as Acolytes, presumably Acolytes. If you did get Overkill, the Kill Team Cassius are a Deathwatch squad, but you can run them alongside a normal Space Marine army. Want to know how? Just click that link up there in the top right and add it to your watch later. Right now, Genestealer Cult. All of the different mining weapons are the same. It was a faff for people to keep trying to stay with the meta and have saws or cutters or drills to pierce the heavens. Well, now it's all just a heavy mining tool, 2 attacks, hitting on a 3, strength 10, -2 and 3 damage. I would say that's an upgrade on all of the different combat weapons you could have there. For the rest of the squad not equipped with mining weapons, and of the 10 of them, you can have 4 with mining weapons. The others have baby versions of a Genestealer Cult Claw. So 3 attacks for their 3 arms, whereas Genestealers have 4 attacks for their 4 arms. We hit on a 3+, strength 4 -1. The -1 is nice in an edition where having a -1 at all is getting a lot rarer. But the sheer number of attacks will help you take down enemies. And as vile insurrectionists, you always reroll 1s to hit, shooting or combat. 1 is the cult leader and they get 2 extra attacks at strength 5 -2 to represent the bone sword and lash whip, things like that. So they're pretty good in combat, although if they hit something that is extra tough, they will just slam into it and slide off it. That's happened to me quite a few times. Oh, look at that, first turn charge with some shenanigans in 9th edition. Not worth it. No. We can't do that anymore because we don't have the ability to advance and charge even with stratagems, so you will have to play somewhat defensive with this unit. Hide it in a building or behind a building, block line of sight, and then charge. I think it's better to do that than risk getting that 9-inch charge when you come up from deep strike from underground. That's just personal preference though. You may prefer to go with 10 people attacking from underground and do it that way. Totally fine, entirely up to you. Since there's no advance and charge, an alternative is to give the Primus in the unit inscrutable cunning. So while the bear is leading the unit, they have the infiltrate ability. As long as you get the first turn, you'll be okay. You can then move out from cover and charge the enemy in the first turn. If you don't have a Primus, have a Locus in the squad with this ability, then if you don't get the first turn, you still have the fight first, assuming the enemy charges you and doesn't just shoot you off the table. As for characters to supplement them, the Primus is going to be the best one, because the Primus changes them from rerolling 1s to hit to rerolling all failed hits. You don't want to be getting 1s and 2s when you're attacking with a strength 10 weapon. You want to be hitting with that, so that will very much help, and I recommend them as the best one to pair with your Acolyte Hybrids. Interestingly, the Primus is back to toughness 3, while the first and second generation hybrids went to toughness 4 in 9th edition. They've retained that. Primus is back to toughness 3. Doesn't matter, use the toughness of the bodyguard when you're being attacked. Unless, you know, snipers and precision and all that awful, awful stuff that Genestealers really do not like. There are a few other leader options, potentially that you could combine with the Primus, but then we're making this squad very expensive. At 150 points for 10 people, we're already kind of pushing it on points, as we're seeing for this edition, at least at the start. The Locus is a very good choice though. If you didn't get your charge off, either from Deep Strike or the enemy had something to attack you quickly before you could attack them, the Locus provides fight first to counteract that. So as you are the defending player, if the enemy charges you, you would go first with this fight first ability. And that is something you want, because these acolytes are very squishy. Toughness 4 and a 5+ save with 1 wound, you will go down to the equivalent of tiny knives. The kind of tiny knives that we're bringing. As a fighter himself, the Locus is quite strong, much like the Acolyte Hybrid leader, but hitting on a 2+ rather than a 3+. And for 40 points, that's pretty good even without a Primus. So I would recommend having a Locus if you have the model. And he works best with the Primus because then you get a 4-up feel no pain against all of those nasty sniper shots, and they would have to take out the Locus first. Bodyguarding within a bodyguard unit? Bodyguardception. That is how you could play this. You could include a Biophagus for 50 points, and that could go with the Primus. That will grant you lethal hits, so on a 6 you automatically wound, and with the Primus rerolling all attacks, you could just keep fishing for 6s. Oh, you got a 3, that's a hit, but try again, see if it's a 6. I think the Biophagus though is best on a unit of Metamorphs, so if you have one Biophagus, put in with your Metamorphs, because the Metamorphs don't have mining weapons. Mining weapons being strength 10, you're pretty likely to wound against, well, everything. Wounding on a 2 or a 3+, I think you're okay. You don't need lethal hits. You could include an Iconward for 50 points. Having a 5+ feel no pain will help your people stay in the fight a lot longer, but I think with his summon the cult ability, he's better off in the rear rather than being pushed up to the front with the acolytes. So I would have an Iconward with the Neophytes, making a unit of Neophytes on an objective near invincible, but we'll get on to things like that. And his summon the cult ability can be done from anywhere. He doesn't particularly want to be in close combat when he's doing that. What about a Clamavus? MC Clammy V spitting out some sick beats? Well, the voice of new truths to make enemies subtract 1 from battle shock tests after your acolytes have hopefully killed at least half of them. It's something. But the Scrambler Array is something you want in the rear to stop enemies being set up within 12 inches of a protected home objective. That's more what I would spend 40 points on with him, but if you have 40 points to spend, get a Locus, not a Clamavus. Leave the Clamavus for the after party. You could have a Magus in your Acolyte squad for 50 points, but that gives you a 5+ feel no pain against psychic attacks. The Iconward, also 50 points, gives you 5-up feel no pain against all attacks. So given the choice, go with the Iconward. And last of all, you could have a Nexus, but again, I think they're very much a rear echelon unit, not wanting to be pushed up close with some charging acolytes and dragged along for the fight. You could also just have the Nexus by themselves out of line of sight, and then they can still use all of their abilities at full effectiveness. But if you want some kind of bodyguard to keep them alive, go with some Neophytes. So just a Primus will do, Primus and Locus, just a Locus, or no characters at all if you want to go a little bit cheaper. That will work, and that will provide you a really good close combat unit outside of Genestealers themselves. The second way to field Acolytes is as a 5-man problem-solving demolition team. You can do amazing explosions with 5 of these models and 2 demolition charges. You don't even need to include hand flamers, they don't matter, but it's free, so why not? Every pistol is a flame pistol. Unless you are like me and believe in WYSIWYG, that is, what you see is what you get, and there has much more aesthetic beauty to have the pistol elegant rather than this chunky hand flamer. So you have 5 of them for 75 points. Use the stratagem Tunnel Crawlers. 1 command point, you can be set up 3 inches away from the enemy. You can't charge, but we're not gonna charge them. we're not going to leave anything left of them. So you're now in range with your grenades immediately after deep striking. And when I say grenades, I do of course mean huge demolition charges used for blowing holes in cavern walls. I wouldn't use the grenade stratagem. You would have to do that before shooting, and it might take away from your blast keyword ability on the demolition charges. So for every 5 models in the enemy unit, and pretty much all of them are in multiples of 5 for squad sizes, you get an extra hit on each of your demolition charges. So I wouldn't risk grenades, and it's also costing more command points on top of what you've already spent for tunnel crawlers. If you really did want to spend more command points, use a perfect ambush. It improves your ballistic skill by 1 point and the armor penetration. That will nicely offset that 5+ requirement to hit. So 2 demolition charges, getting an average number of shots, we're looking at 16 shots against a 10-man enemy unit. If you're hitting on 4s, that's 8 strength 12 minus 3 2 damage attacks. Kaboom! Now if you didn't want to spend 2 command points on this very effective tool, and that 5+ to hit is worrying you, don't worry. Be Primus. Add a Primus, and you're getting a little bit expensive for a one-off literal throwaway unit, but that would let you reroll all failed hits. Do remember that the team is getting a reroll to 1s on all of their hits anyway, and if the enemy is on an objective, and that is what you should be targeting with this squad, then you can also reroll 1s to wound. No support characters needed. Just blow away an enemy that's on an objective. So I recommend just a team of 5, then the 3 of them not armed with demolition charges can be bullet catchers for enemy Overwatch, and I have a video on Overwatch and Fire out already. And if they don't die, then you have a couple of extra models with objective control too, if both of your demolition men blow up from the hazardous test they have to take after throwing those demolition charges. You could have a bigger squad of 10, and then include 4 demolition charges and a Primus. Then with these 2 stratagems, tunnel crawlers and a perfect ambush, you get at least, remember blast, 4d6 plus 12 shots, rerolling all hits at strength 12. Genestealer Cult are not meant to be that powerful, so just don't tell Games Workshop, or we will get nerfed very hard. But wait! There's more! We have the detachment rule, they came from below. So when you're set up as reinforcements, until the end of the next fight phase, and that includes your shooting phase, all of your weapons have sustained hits 1 and ignores cover. I think it's even more shots than that, depending on how many 6s you roll. And again, with the Primus, you can reroll any of your hits, not just the ones that failed. So you could fish for 6s if you really wanted. As the Venga boys said, boom boom, boom boom. I want you in my Genestealer Cult army. But that's getting a bit on the expensive side. Team of 5 does the job quite well for a third of the points of that 10-man plus Primus squad. If the models die from hazardous or from enemy shooting, then take off the ones that have used their demo charges. They count as dead. Now, rules as written, with your cult icon, you can restore D3 destroyed models to the bearer's unit. I don't think you get back your one-shot weapon in that case. So the demo charges will be gone. You are literally bringing back the same guy that just died, rather than someone very suspiciously similar coming on and going, "Oh no, my twin brother! I must avenge you!" Whatever size you pick, when they die, you get another squad as a token using the Cult Ambush ability. And they can then use the grenade stratagem or whatever you want. So, the never ends. Did I say the models die? No. My models don't die. They roll a dice, and on a 1+, they just come right back. Same guy, just the same guy getting back up. And it is a 1+, as in guaranteed for the Acolytes, because Cult Ambush, on a 4+ they return, but you add 3 if they are battle line. Acolytes are battle line, so you get +3 to your roll. You roll a 1, +3, 4+, you succeed. This roll does not fail on a 1 unlike hit rolls and save rolls, which specifically say they fail on a 1. So they don't die. If they're not on the board at the end of the game, then they must have just staggered back to base as the sun rises silhouetted against the light and give a thumbs up as the people crowd around and see their magnificent return against the odds. You are not allowed to die. You will always be needed. I don't know how this will work in Crusade games, but we'll have to wait another week and see how that works. Subscribe, and you will catch my next video on how to make even more bang with your cult. But the Genestealer Cult is not the only army I focus on. Learn about the enemy. To be forewarned is to be forearmed. Don't forget to swing your hammers, and stay forearmed, my darlings and viewers.